There has never been anyone quite like Cher. She has been a light on stage since her days with Sonny, and her solo songs continue to be popular. Even when she's not performing, her life has been hectic. Some of the world's most renowned men have been associated to her, whether it's in a serious relationship or a casual affair. However, Cher has admitted something that even her most ardent admirers were astonished by at the age of 79. There was only one man who actually stood out among all the men she loved. Come explore her life with us as we go back in time to the beginning and find out who the man was who made an impression nobody else could. Personal history and challenges faced by family members throughout formative years. On May 20th, 1946, in El Centro, California, Cher's birth name was Cheryl Sarkeesian. John Sarkeesian, her father, was a truck driver of Armenian-American descent who struggled with substance abuse and gambling. He hardly showed up for her events. Her actress and model mother, Georgia Hull, had mixed ancestry including the Irish, the English, the Germans, and the Cherokee. The fact that Cher's paternal grandparents managed to survive the Armenian genocide is an enduring detail of her family's history. Her parents split up when Cher was barely a year and a half old. Even before he left, her father had her spend a few months at an orphanage. Only once a week, through a window, could her mother see her. In retrospect, both mom and daughter said this was a traumatic event that haunted them. Actor John Southall was Hull's spouse in 1951. They were married and had a daughter, Jorgen, who was half-sister to Cher. Eventually, Cher referred to Southall as her real father because of how much she admired him. However, that union too came to an end when Cher was 9 years old. His temper flared up when he drank too much, she added. Otherwise, he was a nice guy. The Holt family frequently relocated to several locations, including California, Texas, and New York, as a result of Holt's multiple marriages and divorces. Cher recalled using rubber bands to secure her shoes because money was always tight. Holt continued to work as a waiter in Los Angeles while she pursued her acting dreams. She was successful in landing her daughter's guest spots on television series like Harriet the Spy and The Adventures of Azie. Her imaginative spirit was evident even in her early years. She led her 5th grade class in a musical production of Oklahoma and even took on the male roles when the boys refused to participate. She had a considerably lower voice than other girls her age, even at the little age of 9. She frequently mimicked the fashion choices of her favorite movie actresses, such as Audrey Hepburn from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Marlena Dietrich, B. Davis, and Katherine Heigl were also icons in her eyes. On the other hand, she couldn't help but observe the dearth of dark-haired actors in the Hollywood industry. In the Walt Disney cartoons, all the witches and evil queens were really dark. There was nobody I could look at and think, that's who I'm like. She believed she was ugly and untalented because of those sentiments. She had lofty ambitions, nevertheless. She admitted later, I couldn't think of anything that I could do. I just thought I'll be famous. That was my goal. With dreams so strong, her path to fame seemed unstoppable. But her teenage years brought another turn that changed everything from school days to Sonny and Cher. In 1961, Cher's life changed when her mother married Gilbert Layer, a bank manager. He adopted Cher and her sister Gorgon, giving them the new last name LaPierre. He enrolled them in Montclair College Preparatory School in Enino, California. For Cher, who came from a modest background, this new world felt strange. She didn't have money like the other kids, and she stood out. Her striking looks and bold personality made her unforgettable. One classmate remembered thinking she already looked like a movie star, recalling Cher saying she would be famous one day, and everyone believed her. At school, she was witty and creative. She excelled in French and English, but struggled in other subjects. Later, she found out that her struggles came from dyslexia. Even so, she kept showing her unique style. She sang for classmates during lunch and once shocked them by wearing a midriff-bearing top. Cher herself admitted she never fully focused in school. I was never really there. I was always thinking about when I was grown up and famous. She said by 16, her restless spirit took over. She left school, moved out of her mother's house, and stayed with a friend. She took acting classes and danced in nightclubs on Hollywood's Sunset Strip. Cher wasn't shy. She introduced herself to performers, managers, and agents, never hesitating to chase opportunity. Biographer Connie Berman noted that Cher approached anyone she thought could help her get a break. Her boldness paid off in 1962 when she met Sonny Bono. Sonny, 11 years older, was already working for record producer Phil Spector. Cher's friends soon moved out and Sonny offered her a place to stay, first as his housekeeper. He introduced her to Spector, who used her as a backup singer on recordings, including the Righteous Brothers' You've Lost That Love and Feeling and the Ronettes' Be My Baby. Cher also recorded her first single Ringo, I Love You under the name Bonnie Jo Mason, but radio stations rejected it, mistaking her deep voice for a man's. Her big break came in 1965 when she and Sonny performed as Sonny and Cher. Their hit, I Got You Babe, became an anthem of the 1960s counterculture. Almost overnight, they were stars. But Cher wasn't only part of a duo. She launched her solo career at the same time with songs like Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down. These dramatic pop hits paved the way for her 1970s chart toppers such as Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves, Half Breed, and Dark Lady. With her voice, style, and presence, Cher became a symbol of her generation. But as the years unfolded, she would prove she was more than a singer. Acting, awards, and an icon's legacy. By the 1970s, Cher's fame stretched far beyond music. She became a television star with the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour and her own solo variety show Cher, both drawing more than 30 million weekly viewers. Yet, she craved more than TV stardom. She wanted to act, and the world noticed when she did. She made her Broadway debut and comeback to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean. Jimmy Dean in 1982, later adapted into a film. She earned critical praise and soon landed major movie roles. In 1983, she starred in Silkwood and received her first Academy Award nomination. She won the Best Actress Oscar for Moonruck in 1987 and soon released hit albums like Cher, Heart of Stone, and Love Hurts. Her 1998 album Believe introduced the famous Cher effect and became one of the best-selling singles ever. Later albums like Closer to the Truth and Dancing Queen proved her staying power, while her Living Proof tour set records. Her life and career even inspired the 2018 jukebox musical The Cher Show. With a career so vast and personal struggles that shaped her resilience, Cher stands as an icon who continues to inspire. But her personal life, just like her career, has always had more stories to tell. A short fling with Warren Beatty. When Cher was just 16 years old, she had a brief fling with Warren Beatty. At the time, Beatty was 25 and already a rising star, but Cher never saw it as a serious relationship. In fact, she laughed about it later. In a 2018 interview with Ella, she said their first meeting happened in a strange way. Beatty almost hit her with his car. Shocked, she shouted, "Are you nuts?" But when she saw his face, she thought, "My God, it's Warren Beatty." The fling that followed was quick and casual, Cher herself admitted, but you can't call it a relationship. It was very Warren. That short moment in her life came and went, but what happened next would stay with her forever. The rise and fall of Sonny and Cher. Not long after her fling with Beatty, Cher met Sonny Bono at a party in 1962. It wasn't love at first sight. Cher remembered being with a beautiful friend that night, and Sonny was more interested in her friend. To Cher, he brushed her off as just a kid, but fate had other plans. The very next day, she found out Sonny was moving in next door to her. This was good timing because Cher was about to be kicked out of her apartment. She worked up the courage to speak to him. She explained that she had no money, was sick, and had nowhere to go. Sonny looked at her and asked, "Can you cook and clean?" Cher lied and said, "Yes." Sonny told her she could stay with him, adding, "I don't find you particularly attractive." Cher didn't mind. She moved in, and even though she didn't cook, Sonny did. Over time, their bond grew. They went from roommates to lovers and eventually to husband and wife. In 1964, Sonny was already working in the music business under producer Phil Spector, and he introduced Cher to his world. She began as a backup singer, but soon she and Sonny were performing together. By 1965, Sonny and Cher had become household names thanks to their hit, I Got You Babe. Their fame exploded and they became a Hollywood couple. Their variety show, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, premiered in 1971 and became a huge success. In 1969, they welcomed their only child, Chaz Bono. But offstage, things were not as perfect as they seemed. In later years, Cher said Sonny had become controlling. "He didn't want me to grow up or have any freedom." She told Parade in 2010, "I wasn't allowed to do anything except work. Our labor outweighed our enjoyment." Stardom made Sonny a huge womanizer. On top of that, infidelity shook their marriage, Cher claimed, adding bitterness to the mix. "He could not be satisfied with just one woman, let alone 5. He had my confidence and loyalty. I'm not so sure that we ought to have ever been husband and wife." By 1974, she filed for divorce, even citing involuntary servitude. The legal battle was bitter with disputes over custody and money. Their divorce became final in 1975. Yet, despite all the pain, Cher and Sonny found their way back to friendship. When Sonny died in 1998, Cher gave a tearful speech at his funeral. She called him unforgettable and admitted their relationship was complicated. In a 2018 interview with the Daily Mail, she explained, "We had a weird relationship. I don't expect anybody to understand it. Sonny may have left her life in many ways, but he remained in her heart. A new chapter with David Geffen. After her split from Sonny, Cher found herself leaning on someone new. This was entertainment executive David Geffen. Geffen was already a powerful figure in the industry, and he played an important role in helping Cher cut ties with Sonny during their messy separation. Cher and Geffen dated for 2 years, starting in 1974. They even attended the Grammys together that year. For Cher, the relationship was unlike any other. In the biography The Operator by Thomas R. King, she said, "I was the first person to share his bed and to share his life. People don't believe that, or they don't want to believe it, or they don't understand how it could be. But we were really crazy about each other. At one point, they even talked about marriage. But Cher wasn't ready." Speaking to Extra in 2014, she explained, "I just had been married. I was just so frightened of it," she added. "At that point in his life, I was the right person for him." Their romance ended, but it remained an important part of Cher's journey. Geffen later came out as gay, but in those years with Cher, they had shared a real connection. That chapter closed, but Cher's story with Love was far from over. Love and struggles with Greg Allman. Cher's next marriage was to Greg Allman, the singer from the Allman Brothers Band. Their story began in 1975, just days after Cher's divorce from Sonny was finalized. Despite her fears about marriage, she and Allman tied the knot quickly. But only 9 days later, she filed to end the marriage. Still, the two reconciled, and their love continued. They stayed together until 1979. During those years, they welcomed a son, Elijah Blue Allman, in 1976. They also recorded music together, including their duet album, To the Hard Way, in 1977. But their marriage faced serious challenges. Allman struggled with substance abuse, and this deeply affected their life together. Cher later told the Daily Mail in 2018, "It was really intense, but it's hard to have a marriage with someone who's doing drugs. Drugs and I were just never meant to be together. I thought it was stupid and still do. I saw too many people where it ruined their lives. It ruined Gregory's life." Allman himself admitted the problem, saying there was no future for them because Cher was constantly worried he would return to alcohol. The love between them was real, but the struggles were greater. Their marriage finally ended, but it left behind memories of both passion and pain. Greg Allman passed away in 2017 from liver cancer complications. Looking back, their relationship was one of intensity, but also one where addiction left scars that love could not heal. A liberated love with Gene Simmons. After her marriage to Greg Allman ended, Cher began dating another famous musician, Gene Simmons from the band Kiss. Their relationship lasted 2 years, and both of them spoke openly about it in a 1979 People interview. Cher described it in her own way, saying it was the best relationship I've ever had with a human being. At the time, she admitted she was in what she called a very liberated phase. She explained, "I think I have a very masculine attitude to dating. Gene might spend time with another woman and stay the night, but he wants her to leave in the morning so he can get on with his day. For sure, she only saw other men for companionship," adding, "Gene is the only one I'm crazy about. Every one of my relationships is quite serious." Simmons was just as forthright about his emotions, telling the magazine, "I'm crazy about Cher, nuts about her. She's my first love." Cher is an untainted soul who has never done anything bad to anybody. But as strong as their feelings were, their story didn't last. Simmons eventually left Cher for Diana Ross, another music icon. In 2017, he shared the story on Radio Andy, saying that Cher herself had introduced them. Simmons recalled not knowing what to buy Cher for Christmas. So, she told him, "My best friend Diana is there. You should ask her to go shopping with you." That simple gesture turned into a new romance. Still, Simmons insisted there were no hard feelings. He said he continues to stay in touch with both women, praising them as amazing women and calling Cher beyond glamorous. The way their romance ended showed that even heartbreak could leave behind respect. And for Cher, the next chapter brought something different. The never-fading bond with Val Kilmer. In the early 1980s, Cher began a relationship with Val Kilmer, the actor who would later star in Top Gun. They first met at a birthday party, and their connection began as a friendship. Cher said, "We became friends because we laughed at the same things at all times. He would spend the night, and at first, it was merely a friendship." Despite their age difference, Cher was older. Their friendship blossomed into love. She later said, "The truth was, if I hadn't gone out with younger men, I would have never had a date. Younger men weren't intimidated by older women, but older men in my age category, they weren't having it." Val was more than just her companion. He was also great with her kids. Cher spoke about how much he loved them, saying, "He was so good with my kids. He used to let Elijah drive the truck on his property. He couldn't even see over the dashboard. He might have been 9. He wouldn't be ashamed or think it was anything. He was a free spirit. Their love was passionate, but it wasn't always easy. Cher expressed regret. We had unbelievable times, and then put up with some times when they weren't that way because we were both alpha males. We were both individuals, and neither of us was going to give up on that. Still, they shared a sense of humor and a deep connection. Our sense of humor and what we would put up with from one another was more than I think I've ever had with any other guy, according to her. Sid and Ethel were their humorous nicknames for each other, and they would occasionally go by Val Maximus and Sherry's Reprimandes. With a laugh, Cher said, "Of course he was Maximus. Come on." Although their romance ended in 1984, their bond remained strong. Without really attempting, they maintained their friendship. Cher commented, "I don't know how we stayed friends. We just did. We didn't try. We just were." Years later, when Val was diagnosed with throat cancer, Cher was by his side. For sure, he was someone she would always drop everything for. She described him as a true artist and Renaissance man, but also admitted, he can be a brat, too. You, however, absolve him. Everything he did, you forgive. It continued to bring me joy even in my fury. I would go to any location if he phoned. After seeing his documentary Val for Cher, Cher was forthright about her enduring feelings, telling him, "I loved him and I love him." She even went so far as to write him a note using their former pet names. She considers Val Kilmer more than an ex-lover. He was a friend for life and someone she will always treasure. Love, as their narrative demonstrated, may take many shapes but ultimately endures. A passionate love affair with Josh Donen. Cher started dating film producer Josh Donen in 1985 after breaking up with Val Kilmer. There was less drama in this romance than in her previous ones. Although Cher often did not shy away from discussing her personal life, the Los Angeles Times did mention that she was living with Donen in Malibu during an interview the same year. She was more guarded about discussing this relationship specifics. Nonetheless, she addressed the matter in a 1987 interview with the Washington Post. "I had my most committed relationship since getting married," she said, describing her time with Donen. "I still really love Joshua, and I see him all the time. I just didn't want to be with him anymore as a girlfriend." Her statements revealed the strength of their relationship, and she acknowledged that she still loved him. Even when the relationship ended, it proved that splits don't always have to be ugly and nasty. This relationship was a watershed moment in Cher's quest for harmony in her life as she sought to juggle her job, her independence, and love. Tom Cruise and I had an unforgettable romance. Tom Cruise, another Top Gun star, was Cher's boyfriend in the 1980s, which shocked many. Their romance started in 1985 at the wedding of Madonna, and Sean Penn. Cruise wasn't yet the international sensation he would become. He was just starting out. However, their genuine bond was not formed until much later. In an interview with the Daily Mail, Cher said, "Then a bunch of people who were dyslexic were invited to the White House, and Tom and I are both dyslexic. We didn't go out till way later, but there was definitely a connection there. Their shared experience served as the catalyst that brought them closer together." Their relationship was secret until Cher opened up about it years later. In 2013, observe everything unfold in real time. Andy Cohen wanted to know which of her lovers was the finest. Tom Cruise was named by Cher as one of the top 5 candidates without hesitation. It wasn't without its limitations, though. She gave an interview to Entertainment Tonight in 2008 in which she said that scheduling conflicts were the main cause of their breakup. That happened eons ago. Neither of us ever broached the subject, either. In addition, the reason behind it remains a mystery to me. He was really reserved while we were together. That is, until recently. This individual and this press are making it difficult for me to look away. I don't know how many times I can see him bouncing about on Oprah's couch. Her statements demonstrated respect even after the breakup. Cher will never forget Cruise. However, she quickly found herself in a relationship with someone quite different. Rob Camei, love triumphs above all obstacles. When Cher met Rob Camei in 1986, her life took a different path. He was just a 22-year-old baker, not an A-list actor. The media promptly dubbed Cher, who was 40 years old at the time, Bagel Boy. Their age disparity was irrelevant to Cher. She told the Washington Post about their 1987 first encounter, claiming he was in the process of baking bagels. "I could not help but comment, 'Wow, that guy is absolutely stunning. Take a look at those eyes. I can't help but fantasize about how amazing it would be if he had acting chops.'" 3 months later, they crossed paths again, and this time they started dating. "Things didn't seem like they were going to get serious," Cher said. She expressed her shock at the news that they were now a couple. Their friendship blossomed, though, and Camei began to accompany her to all of her important life events. He was by her side as she accepted the Oscar for Best Actress in 1988 for Moonstruck. Media scrutiny and criticism of their age difference put pressure on their relationship, which lasted until 1989. Cher never stopped seeing him as an important part of her life, even after they broke up. In 2020, she was asked by The Guardian about her life partner and said, "Well, I think Robert Camille and Gregory Alman." She went on to describe Rob as someone entirely different, saying, "He was like a rock." Recalling their friendship from years later, she told Parade in 2010 that he had become a pilot and that they remained friends. Rob brought Cher security and passion, but Richie Sambora and Ron Zimmerman would soon enter her hectic world. Cher met Bon Jovi guitarist Richie Sambora in the late 1980s. Cher, her 1987 album on which he served as a producer, was the catalyst for their eventual romance. Samura and Cher maintained a low profile, in contrast to her previous relationships. Nonetheless, Samora revealed some details of their breakup in 1992. Samora said on the Arsenio Hall show that the couple remained amicable after breaking up due to Samora's hectic profession. They demonstrated continued regard for one another by exchanging light-hearted Twitter praises years later. Friendship may last long after a romantic relationship ends, as their remarks demonstrated with tenderness and affection. This chapter was more subdued for Cher. However, the upcoming relationship would demonstrate the utter unpredictability of love. Years down the road, in 2010, Cher entered into a different type of relationship with Ron Zimmerman, a screenwriter. Facebook was the extremely modern manner that their romance began. Their common friend set them together, and they hit it off immediately, first over the phone and then in an online chat. According to what Cher remembered, "Then we talked on the phone. I suggested, 'Why don't you come over and we'll meet? If I don't like you or you don't like me, you can just go home.' And so we met." She described him with affection, saying, "Ron is short, a bit scraggly, like an absent-minded professor. He's the funniest person I have ever met and the most eccentric. So bizarre and kind and very special." Though their breakup wasn't public, Cher's words showed how much she valued him. Then came a romance that shocked the world, the love of her life. In the fall of 2022, Cher began dating music executive Alexander E. Edwards, who is 40 years younger than her. They met at Paris Fashion Week and quickly grew close. Critics focused on the age gap, but Cher didn't care. On the Kelly Clarkson show, she laughed. "On paper, it's kind of ridiculous, but in real life, we get along great. He's fabulous, and I don't give men qualities that they don't deserve." On social media, she defended their love with bold words. "Love doesn't know math, it sees." She also revealed that her family had met him and said he treated her like a queen. Their relationship quickly became serious. On Christmas Day in 2022, Edwards gave her a diamond ring. Cher tweeted that morning, "Woke up minute ago, and first thing before I opened my eyes, I thought I need to run to mom's and show her my ring. She loves it. Diamonds. Before I realized it, I had little tear, but I'm sure this is natural sick." Her mother, Georgia Holt, had passed away that same month, making the moment bittersweet. The couple made their red carpet debut in March 2023 at Versace's fashion show in Los Angeles, where they smiled, kissed, and held hands. Though they briefly split in May 2023, they reconciled later that year. By November 2024, Cher told the Times of London that their bond was strong. "We get along really well, even though we come from two completely different worlds." She said, "I can give him a different viewpoint on music, and he talks to me about Black culture in a way I could never know otherwise. I don't want this interpreted incorrectly, but Black folks are really vocal. They crack more jokes. Their sobbing increases. As a result, everything is magnified and improved." By the year 2025, they remained a couple. Cher and Edwards were seen walking hand in hand down the red carpet at the 50th anniversary edition of Saturday Night Live in New York. He matched her sleek black suit, and she donned a shimmering black satin gown. As they drew near, Cher nuzzled his face and put her palm on his chest. She proved she is just as captivating as before by performing "If I Could Turn Back Time" at Radio City Music Hall over the weekend. Cher has just one response to those who question her romance. She previously said on social media, "Let me explain. I don't give a flying FK what anyone thinks." She believes that happiness is the most important thing, regardless of age or celebrity. After all these relationships, who do you believe was Cher's true love? In addition, are you of the opinion that her present relationship is the one that will endure? Leave a comment with your ideas. Also, please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching.